The irony of the world is that when you've worked in television and you've done radio and bits and pieces, people think you love public speaking. Not so true, funnily enough. And following on from the AI, I do apologise for my PowerPoint presentation. It's not my favourite skill set. And my son looked at it and laughed. So we'll have a little crack at it anyway and see what we can do here. Okay, I was having a chat to Diego and he said to me, well, it was just a general conversation actually, and I tend to be a little bit opinionated. I piped up and I was like, there could be some work done there with some of the real estate videos that come out, particularly in regards to shooting of properties and some of the stuff that I see on Facebook. But that's just me, because that comes from my background of what has been drilled into me across 25 years. So I'm not telling you to suck eggs here, but let's see how we go. Production values for real estate videos. Now I think I pushed the green button and there we go. The easiest thing I could think of was to make you guys the director. And effectively, that's going to give you the opportunity to discuss with your videographer how you can improve the videos that have been released without increasing extra costs. I'm well aware that there's different budgets for different people purchasing properties. And I'm relating this probably to those slightly stingy vendors that don't quite want to spend as much cash as you may want them to spend. Telling the story. Now, this is something that gets forgotten every time. I often watch video content and there's no real cohesion to the story, how it's laid out. It's really basic, right? It's the beginning and the middle and the end. And often I see them jumbled up, or people start to lose their way when they're doing them. The story often is written incredibly well by real estate agents. When I read the blurb or the bio about a property, they're really good. They explain the key features about the property. They talk about things such as what's in the local area, what's the house made of, what the potential for the properties are. Yet I don't always see this transfer over into the video content, and in some instances even the photography. Preparation is key. So, like everything, you want to plan and get everything sorted before you actually go out and shoot the property. First thing, perform a walkthrough with the videographer. It's beneficial to them, it's beneficial to you. It's what I do when we're filming in a house. We will walk through the property. I'll walk through it with my DOP, my cameraman, the rest of the team, and we'll get an understanding of the location we're shooting at. We've often looked at it previously, we've taken notes, we've built a structure to how we are going to shoot the property, so as the time is used correctly, we're not wasting resources, which are important, and then more importantly, when you get to the other end and start to complete the edit, you've actually got something that's cohesive and is going to work without having to go back and do pickups. Jane, Shane, myself, we've all had to do pickups in our time. It's not fun. Planning around the key features of the property. This is something else I see. For example, if we take a property that might be described as a modern farmhouse, and it's described as having bevelback weatherboards, and yet we don't ever see a feature of the bevelback weatherboards. This is the structure. What is the list? What are the key features of the property that you're talking about? Write them down. Sit down, have a meeting. When you do your walkthrough, you can go, okay, this is where I want to show it. It's a weatherboard house. People are worried about older weatherboard homes. They're cracked, they're high maintenance. This has been done. So how about you showcase the weatherboards looking in a fantastic state? It's a little thought, perhaps, that, focus on the good features that you're actually trying to sell. Don't remove all the life from the house. Wow, this is exciting. I went to a client's property the other day that was getting ready for sale. The videographer was there, and a house that I had spent years putting together with a client had been completely denuded. Now, I'm not saying don't remove the clutter. Okay, no one wants to see the stack of pens and papers and bits and pieces sitting by where the phone used to be, or now it's just a little router or something. That's totally fine. However, there comes a point where you actually strip the soul out of the house and the story that is trying to be told with the property. I totally get it. There are properties out there that are new builds, they're terraced houses. This doesn't apply to them. This is more a property where you're trying to showcase what the property could be for someone else. It's the story, it's the heart and soul. Maybe just dial back the stripping out of the property a little bit. A variety of shots. Okay, so your videographer is going to know what these sorts of things are. What I noticed when I was watching, everything was shot on one lens, it was a wide lens, and everything was shot from the corner of the room. There was some intention, I think, that it was going to showcase how much space it was. Instead, it just distorted the shots. To me, this is not an accurate representation of the property. You can do it, and you can do it in better ways. They're really basic, close-ups. So as I mentioned about the weatherboards or specific features in the cladding, get close-ups of them. Cut to the close-ups, it breaks up the video, it shows interest. It works. These are basic things that we do, 101. Mid shots. So not everything needs to be wide and close. If you're shooting something, for example, like a kitchen, there's no reason you need to try and get the whole kitchen in every shot. You can start with a wide shot, an establishing shot, and then you can push in to show key features. Pulling focus. We all will have seen this, maybe if you don't understand what it is. Pulling focus might be that you are tight on, say, the bench top, and that's in focus and you're in close, and you pull the focus to showcase the splashback that's in the kitchen behind it. Therefore, you're showing both of them in detail at a closer range, but they're both getting showcased in their best light. Once again, that would entail that if the story of the house was it was a newly renovated kitchen, this is how you can show it off. Movement with a slider. Now, you'll even see the guys cruising around here today. Very good. They've got their gimbals, okay? So you can two ways. You can use it with a gimbal or you can use it with a slider. Slider's probably a bit painful because you require a track to set up, mount the camera, and it gives you consistent movement, but it is controlled electronically, so it is a very stable movement across it. You're probably going to pay more to get that done, and a gimbal is perfect for it. But rather than just movements being forward and back, sideways movement. Movement in a shot greatly improves the production value of the video that you're making. Movement with the drone. Okay, now everyone would say, well, that's basic, isn't it? You know, a drone flies, it moves. Of course it does. But drones don't just fly forward, back, up and down. They also have the ability to arc around a space. And that's what I mean by putting movement in with the drone. Utilize it. It's a great tool. Experiment with it. Do tracking shots running through certain areas. I know you're not meant to fly them in the house because that's big trouble, big no-no. But we've tried it once or twice, quietly on the down low. But there are many endless possibilities, and they don't always have to be high. Sometimes having the drone tracking in at head height, which shows you perspective moving through a garden or an outdoor area or up a driveway, works incredibly well. Check the location. Pet peeve of mine. I watch even TV shows that I've worked with in the past, even ones that I've directed, and we've missed it. Something like a bed not having a sheet tucked in at the side of it, and yet it's shot on a home renovation show. Highly appalling. So check your location, walk around and make sure it looks good. If they're shooting down the side of the house and there's a crappy hose rolled up there, please take the hose off, do the shot, put the hose back on, you know? I'm not saying you strip it out and leave everything lying around, but check the shot. Make sure things look good. I've seen beautiful home shot and there's a damn toaster plugged in, streaming across the bench top. And I'm like, what would it have taken to have put that away or just made it look tidy? Just small adjustments. I mean, granted, we just roll in and start changing things. You have to deal with vendors, so it'd probably be something that would be included. We're coming to shoot your property. Please make sure these things are squared away. Or do you mind if we touch them and shift them ourselves? Lighting. This is often done terribly by us, by everyone, and yet it's such a major factor. Lighting a property is incredibly important. Worst example I've seen, an incredible living room that was staged beautifully, and in comes someone to shoot it, and they wind all the blinds up. The outside view wasn't great, right? It was about living inward, not outward in this space. All the curtains, everything was opened up. All the lights were turned on in the space. It looked awful. The whole soul of the room was gone. A simple lighting kit taken in would have lit the space as people were intended to enjoy the property. So you can imagine how you see it when you walk into a space and how you enjoy it. The light levels are vastly different to what you need for a camera to pick it up and shoot it properly and to showcase the space. But you don't want to ruin the warmth and the environment that you're actually trying to showcase and create. So try lighting. Making sure the colors are true. Wowzers. The number of times I've seen things where I've made a real effort to make someone's house look really beautiful and have some nice colours added to it, and the end result is, hang on, that looks like a pink room when the room was actually red. Now, these are called white balances. Our fine people operating the cameras today, they understand what white balancing is. It's making sure the grade of the colour is correct at the outset of the shoot. You can also do colour grades afterwards. Try and get a true representation. White houses, not going to be too much of a problem for everyone, but if you are selling a house that is full of colour, which may or may not be your cup of tea, it will be for other people, and having the true colours represented is important. Well, it is to me anyway. So, and I'm rambling today, so that's fine. You have to listen to me, don't you? Review the footage before you leave the property. I too have been guilty of not doing this and having to go back and get things. Please review the footage. I learnt the hard way. It's bad when you have to go back to Wellington to pick up some shots. Yes, who got that wrong? And at the end of the day, it was my fault, so I had to own up to it. Embarrassing. It takes a few minutes to scroll through and have a look. As I was mentioning earlier, I was at my client's property that was getting filmed. I took the time to actually go back through the footage, learning from my error, and went through, and I looked at a few of the shots, and I was like, these don't work. He asked me why I thought they don't work, and so I said to him, well, this is what I kind of do. I work in the same game as you, filming things. And so we made some subtle adjustments, and the difference was great, but we saw it then. So I wasn't having to go, oh yeah, I don't like that. Can we meet back at the house? I don't know. I don't have the time to do that. I'm sure none of you do as well. So, even though you're taking a whole day off today, right? Good times. Now, I'm particularly proud of this after the AI guy. I actually managed to put a QR code up on the screen. Now, appreciate this. Please scan it. Now, if I could have shown you footage that I wanted to do. Oh my goodness, there's phones everywhere. This is wonderful. This is a link to a company called The Local Project. They do sensational books. They have an exceptional Instagram following. They have exceptional videos online on their YouTube channel. This is an example of architecture shot well. So if you just need an example to show to someone and say, this is the kind of thing I want, there you go. Yep, my son was blown away that I managed to pull that off, but there it is, folks. Shitty PowerPoint, dope QR code. Okay, that's the end of my, I think that's the end of, YouTube and podcast. No, you haven't got rid of me yet. I was hearing some of the, thank goodness, let's get rid of him moment. Diego wanted me to chat about YouTube and podcasting, and I'm sure I have to speed up because I'll be running out of time. I'll get yelled at in a minute. This applies to Facebook and everything. I'll be doing a lot of work with YouTubers on podcasts and bits and pieces later. Utilize story and structure. See how we're going back to the original topic that we were talking about at the beginning? You're great at writing the stories for the houses. You need story and structure if you're going to make YouTube content. Otherwise, people switch off. Planning is key. Understand it. Really basic, right? Beginning, middle, end. This sounds obvious. I went to a YouTube training session because with some of the YouTubers that I'm working with to help lift their production values. This was the first slide that came up on the wall. I stole it. It was good. I went, what do you mean that none of these people who are making content understand storytelling? And one of the ladies from YouTube said to me, she goes, no, they have no idea. It blew me away. So please find the story that you want to tell. Understanding retention. Apparently this is massive for YouTube people, so we'll have a little cover off here. Retention is good. When I'm talking about retention, I'm not meaning retaining your viewers. I'm not meaning retaining your subscribers. I'm meaning stopping people from turning off halfway through your video. This is an actual retention graph that was for, I've left the site off it. It was a cooking segment. A lady had 1 million subscribers, an Australian baker. She was icing a cake. Midway through her video, 50% of the viewers had turned off. We sat there, we watched it, and the answer to why they turned off was because she started talking about the size of the nozzle on the piping bag. She lost half her viewers. All this information you can get for your videos using YouTube Studio and all the back end stuff, right? It's all there for you. So what you do is after you've released it, you watch it, you use the analytics and you go, oh, what happened then? And you watch. Wow, people hated me talking about this particular aspect of real estate, okay, might want to change that, okay? So that's how you're going to evolve and you're going to identify what the problems are. Next thing, look for patterns and aspects that stand out. It cuts both ways. You can see where you're going to have spikes. It might be based around content. It might be based around visuals. You might have a better retention rate if you've got a guest on. These are the things to learn to be successful. Shortening challenge. Wow, this is it, right? I have trouble shortening everything down. That's why I'm getting looked at by David. It's hurry up, Hamish. But the reality of it is you need to cut the waffle out of what you're doing. So if you're looking at it and you've got dips, that's how you start to plan your shortening. It's okay to have clear, concise content. It's a real art and it takes time, but if you use the metrics, you'll be able to see it for yourselves. Be consistent. Okay. Consistency doesn't mean boring, okay? You need to have a level of consistency between the content that you're releasing. It has to be of a similar nature. People like that. That's why people get addicted to listening to their talkback host that they have in the morning. And then Rick's sick. Goodness no, we've got Brian covering. This is terrible. Brian speaks in a different fashion, interviews in a different way. It doesn't work. It puts people off. People like consistency. Consistency doesn't mean volume. You do not need to put out 20 videos a week. You need to work out what you can actually deliver in a correct amount of time so you can release them at a consistent rate. Being consistent in your video structure. How have you structured your content? Try and keep that going. That's the story. That's the format that you've built. You need to keep that going. Style, how it looks. Keep that up. That is your brand. I know you're all excellent when it comes to brands, right? Real estate agents seem to be the most in tune with that sort of thing. You've got your brand, stick with it. The tone, you don't want one video which is all rah, 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 and the next one that's very somber. You want to pick that and keep that going nicely. Brand, well, yeah, we know that. Comms, when do you talk about it? 2 weeks before you release the video, you might do a post. Week out, you might do a post, and then on the morning. Keep that at an even, consistent rate so as people know when to expect updates from you and what you're doing. Frequency, well, it depends on what you're making. If you're making long format, it should be every 2 weeks that you release. Anything closer than that, if you're talking about 25, 30 minutes and longer, you're going to end up not getting the full range out of what you've shot. If you're doing podcasts, you can make it maybe weekly or, twice a week, depending on what your availability and ability to do it is. Collaborations. I know you're not going to all collaborate together, right? But I'm not talking about real estate agents with other real estate agents. I'm talking about adding value when you're talking. Simple things. Talk to a mortgage broker. Talk to someone in construction. These are all things that center around real estate. Have a chat to insurance specialists. Interior designers. Yeah, feel free to have a chat to us. We're always opinionated and like to have something to say. Architects, and ultimately the list goes on. Final thing was I was going to have some final words. I was actually going to tell you an anecdotal story, but the reality of it is I'm so far out of time. Oh, am I allowed to? Oh, look, okay. So where did my obsession with detail come into and what goes into a shot? I was 23. I just started going and doing television. I had bleached white hair and enough hair product for 5 grown men sitting in it. I had a giant spiky thing, horrendous. I saw some photos of it the other day and my son was just like, oh dear goodness, Dad. We were out, it was late afternoon, we'd done a garden makeover. It had poured with rain for hours. At this point, the 5-man hair product was melting down my face in the rain. And my lovely director, Karen, other people in the room might remember, I won't use the surname, said to me, Hamish, she goes, we need to shoot the paving stones. They were white concrete ones that my dear friend at that time, Coxie, had poured for me. Brand new ready lawn around them. The mud was running across them. She said, well, let it dry out, we'll come back tomorrow. It rained all night, all the ready lawn disappeared. We spent the next morning lifting all the ready lawn and laying new ready lawn. And Karen said to me, Hamish, it's raining again. I went back into the rain, looking like another drowned rat, having not learnt my lesson the first day. And she said, you're going to get towels and you're going to put them on every one of the paving stones. She was under an umbrella with the cameraman shooting. I'm standing in the rain with towels and I'm like, what am I doing? And she said, I will not see muddy water tracking across my paving stones in my shot. I went, right. So then I stood there and waited, and she was ready, and she yelled, action, and my job was to remove the towels. She shot it for all of 4 or 5 seconds, and she went, okay, that's good, thanks, Hamish, and we walked off. That's what taught me about the small things in the shot being important to be represented in the correct way. Anyway, I'm done. Thanks for listening, guys.